fish are out here. There are windows of opportunity. They're not easy to catch. And if you're coming out to the California Delta, I'll tell you this, you can't let the monkeys be in charge of the bananas. Let's take a look at a few pictures. We'll get right into the report. Hey, thanks for joining me again. This is the In Deep on the Delta Weekly Report for August 22nd. I want to start off by giving a shout out to the Vaughn family. Last week was the 12th annual Mike Vaughn Classic, and I was out there just I didn't fish a tournament, but I was out there to support the tournament, and man, I had a great time. Just a bunch of great people out there fishing it. I want to especially thank Reggie and Tony for having me out and inviting me out there and feeding me some barbecue, so on and so forth. And next year it is a annual tournament. I'm going to start hitting this thing up a little early. You guys that are thinking about fishing a tournament that's not super competitive, something where you can go out and just have some fun, great raffle, meet some people, this is the thing to do. This is the tournament you want to check out. I also want to give a shout out to Vince Harris. Vince was the tournament director. He did a great job, and he did a great job emceeing the thing. Tournament went out flawlessly, and it was just a great tournament. So big shout out to the Vaughn family. Thanks for putting this thing on and giving us anglers out here on the Delta, especially the bass fishing community, another great tournament to go to and have fun with. So with that, last thing we'll talk about before we get into the report is the Bass Hole Tourney Series, their team tournament series. That is going to be Sunday, August 25th out at Russo, so you can call Rob out at the Bass Hole and get information, sign up for that one. And I will try to be out there this weekend so we can get some interviews and see how you guys do. Let's get into the report. We'll start off with stripers. And I talked to Alan Fong a couple days ago, just to let you guys know, Alan is still out there. He's fishing like he always has. He is doing his electronics consulting business. He's kind of scaled that back because he's been so busy doing it. So he's doing that 2 days a week, but he is still doing the electronics consulting. If you need some help with electronics, if it's getting them dialed in or just learning how to use them, Alan's the guy to call. So give Alan a call, and he's got I think he's doing it 2 days a week. He's got about a 2-week waiting list, but he'll come out on your boat and give you some one-on-one instruction on that. I also talked to Alan about the stripers, and he reported that they're coming in. There is a big school of stripers between Pittsburgh and Rio Vista. The trollers out there have been doing well. He had a friend out there that had a 50 fish day, and they're good sized fish. Those fish have already reached up into Liberty Island. I know the fishing out here in the Central Delta has picked up. Coach Ted gave me a report, and he's a local guy. He's not venturing out far to fish for stripers. He had good luck right around the 14-mile area. Not big fish, 2 to 5 pounds, just keeper size and good eating size. He also reported that unfortunately those fish were feeding on baby bass, but that's the law of the Delta. If you're out here and you're small, you're going to probably get eaten by something. So the stripers are in here. I will also say the sea lions are in here, and the local fellas that I see coming out of Paradise Point, the striper guys. And we're going to talk about, we'll call these fellas the subsistence fishermen. They're not out here for fun, they're out here for food. Big increase in those guys, and I know when they're out here, they're not coming out here for their health. They're catching fish out here. Most of those guys are fly lining, probably bluegill at this point. But the stripers are in. We're going to start getting more and more into the striper fishing. I hope to do a lot more striper fishing this year, and I'm going to be out with Joe from Core Fishing hopefully a couple of times. Maybe I'll get my buddy Eli from the NorCal Angler to take me up north and show me how to catch some of these things. Let's talk about some largemouth. We'll talk about some tournaments, and then we'll get into the report. And boy, it's across the board. First part of last week was pretty darn good. It's kind of tapered off, and I think that has to do with the moon phases and things like that. But we'll get into that and talk about it and try to give you guys some information what you might want to do when you come out here. So Delta Bass Club, they had a small eight fish tournament last weekend, 5 fish limit, or excuse me, 8 boats, 5 fish limit. First place was 17.4. Second place was 16.10. Jim and Abby won the tournament. Congratulations. Second place was Kevin and Gary. Also, congratulations to Kyle. He had the big fish, 7.8 pounds. That was taken on a crankbait. And you're going to hear that more than once in this report. A lot of big fish are coming on crankbaits. And I'll just tell you before I get into these, most of the fish that are being taken on crankbaits are crawdad color crankbaits. A couple weeks ago, I talked about switching your colors into shad. There were shad all over here. The shad are still here. I think they've kind of broken up a little bit. I think a couple weeks ago they were really congregated and they were spawning, and the fish that had those shad, you know, balled up in places, they were really eating the shad. My suggestion now is if you're using crankbaits to go with a Delta Craw color, which is the really red crayfish with, you know, some black lines on it, or I have been seeing some baits in some of these fish that look like they are more of an orange color crawdad. So any kind of crawdad, you're gonna do fine. So let's talk about the Mike Vaughn tournament. That was Saturday. That was a 3 fish limit. And they had a couple, 13 and some change won it, so that's a little over a 4-pound average for 3 fish. Not a bad day. There was a lot of fish that came in, a lot of good fish, 5, 6, 7-pound fish. I think they had 2 or 3 fish that were over 7, several fish over 6. A lot of big fish. The fellows that were winning, you know, were cashing checks. Most of them seemed to have like one big fish, 5, 6, or 7-pound fish, and then a couple, you know, decent quality fish. But it was really, you didn't see anybody catching that just standard 4.5, 5-pound fish out there. Catching 3 nice fish, I'll say over 4.5 or 5 pounds, has been really tough. Most of the field was running about 7 to 9 pounds, so they were getting their fish, but you know, average about 2 to 3 pounds a piece for the regular Joes that were out there. Everyone was getting these fish on a variety of baits. I think the winners caught their fish on worms, but a lot of chatterbait talk. Some guys are catching and punching, but it was pretty much a junk fishery. And I'll have a video up, a recap of the Mike Vaughn tournament here in a week or so, and you'll be able to hear some of the information that these guys had on the day of the tournament. There's also, the same day, there was a highway patrol tournament, just a small boat tournament. I think 10 guys out there went out of lads. By the way, Mike Vaughn tournament went out of lads. They had 75 boats, if I didn't mention that. And the highway patrol tournament basically mimic what the Mike Vaughn tournament had. They caught fish, but most of the fish were in that, you know, 2 to 3 pound class. It was hard to get anything over that. And all the guys in that tournament also talked about junk fishing. Everybody caught whatever they caught on a different lure. It wasn't one lure that was catching anything in particular. What are we going to go? I got 2 success stories. The small Tuesday night Lunkers tournament. Our friend Rob Cloutier. Rob is the proprietor of the Bass Hole, for you guys that don't know that. And I know we're talking about bass fishermen, so if you don't know what proprietor means, Rob owns the bass shop. So with that, Rob won the tournament Tuesday night with 29 pounds. Congratulations to Rob. Rob caught those fish in a very tight bite window between about 6 and 8 p.m. at night, and I think this is just a half-day tournament. They go out, you know, towards the evening. So the bite window was 6 to 8. Caught his fish on buzz baits and spinner baits. Now, I'll tell you, I was out Tuesday from about 9 o'clock to 2 o'clock. I had a disastrous day. It was tough to catch any fish. I was lucky enough to catch a couple of keepers, and that was about it. I had 2 other friends that I know that were out in the morning, had similar luck, and I talked to at least 3 or 4 people on the river, a couple people at the dock. Tuesday morning was not a great day to be on the water. Tuesday evening, might have been a different story. It was just a matter of the tide. So one thing that I'll tell you about coming out this next week, really check your tides. The tide that everybody, or that a lot of people have been catching their better fish and finding the better bite, is a low incoming or a low outgoing tide. But the tide would be centered around low tide. And I believe the tide Tuesday night was probably a low incoming tide that Rob caught those fish on. I'm not sure on that, but I think that's how it lines up. Here's another big shout out to Jason and his partner. I didn't get Jason's partner's name, but these are, Jason sends me reports all the time, and he's catching fish out here. He's a local guy, a weekend guy, and Jason and his partner had a 25-pound bag this week. Here's the deal, here's what they sent me, and I'm going to show you some pictures. And one thing that Jason did is he showed the 5 fish that they caught, most of them 4 to 7 pounds, in that range to get his 25 pounds. They started out at Lazy M. They have a small boat, so they stay pretty local. They fish from 5:30 a.m. to 1:30. Water temperature 75 to 78 degrees, 2 to 4 foot visibility. Windy conditions all day, full moon, and they fished the high outgo tide. Most of their fish were 4 to 7 pounds. The bigger fish looked like they were post-spawn fish. They caught them on topwater baits in the AM. After that bite dropped, they caught them on crankbaits, jerk baits, and walking baits. So a big congratulations to Jason and his partner. 25-pound bags are not easy to catch. And I know those guys will be remembering that for a long, long time. I didn't talk about river conditions, but what you will see as far as temperatures, they are dropping here on the Delta. I'm getting 74 to 76 degrees. When I talked to Alan Fong, he was saying they're getting like 68-degree water temps out around Liberty and out on that side, maybe going up to 72. Remember a couple weeks ago, water temperatures were around 80 degrees. We've had cool nights, we've had a lot of wind, and that's brought the water temperatures down. It's also clouded up the water slightly. Where I was getting maybe, I'll say 5 or 6 feet of visibility, I'm getting maybe 4 feet of visibility. So that wind and wave action has clouded up the water just a little bit, but still conditions are very good out here. Another thing that I'm not liking out here is I did fish Saturday. I got to go out with my new friend Vic. No, that wasn't Saturday. We'll talk about my new friend Vic in a minute. I was out Saturday, and man, the skiing and the wake, I don't know what they call them, wake boats or whatever it is. Man, it was a disaster where I was just nonstop, and it really got on my last nerve. Back to my friend Vic. Vic was one of the guys that won a half-a-day trip. Vic and I went out Tuesday. We had about a 30-fish day, fish local. We got 5 nice fish for a nice little tournament bag, and we called several fish. We got a lot of rats. We were picking up our fish on a variety of baits. I think mostly we were using jerk baits. Vic got some fish on some topwaters. He wanted to work with some topwater technique and stuff, and that we opened up the program today with Vic catching that nice little fish on a topwater there. So that's what generally what's been going on. I have not had a good week, and I am in the process of moving, looking for new places or new areas, and I haven't found any of those places that are really holding any big fish. So what I am going to do is I'm going to take the advice from everyone else that's been sending me reports. Number one, I'm going to keep a crankbait on. It's going to be a crawdad color crankbait. The bait of the week definitely has been chatterbaits. Everybody's catching them on chatterbaits. Every tournament I talk to, that is one bait that everybody has talked about. So crankbaits and chatterbaits. I'm going to still keep my jerk baits on just because I know I can get bid on those. I'm not getting big fish on those like I was a couple weeks ago, but I've got to have one on just to keep my ego up to catch a few fish. Worms are still producing. There is a punch bite going on. A lot of the guys in the Mike Vaughn tournament, so some of the big sticks, they were punching. They caught fish, but they didn't overwhelm anybody just because they were punching. Topwater frogs are producing, and the topwater AM bite starts after the sun comes up. Don't get out here at 4 in the morning, because you're probably going to sit out here in the dark casting and not get your first fish until that sun comes up. So with that, what I said I would be doing is I'm going to throw the standard baits. I'm not going to get crazy. I'm going to continue to move. There's people catching fish on every type of cover out here, whether it's an island, whether it's a flat, whether it's a drop-off, whether it's rock and a trough. They're catching them all over. You got to be at the right place at the right time. So I'm going to keep moving. I'm going to really fish hard during the low outgo tide. That's the one that's been, you know, most prevalent, where people are catching fish in the last week. And I'm with you guys. I'm not going to, you know, I'm not catching a ton of fish out here, and I want to start catching more fish. So move, move, move. Hopefully I'll find some pockets of fish, and next week I'll be able to give you some more pointers on technique and how I'm catching them. If not, I'll tell you how I'm not catching them and how everybody else is catching them. So make sure you send me your reports, and until next week, fish hard. Don't let the monkey be in charge of the bananas, and send in a report if you got it. See you guys on the river. Good luck.